Welcome friends to our channel. This is another episode related to English literature, particularly English honors students of various universities. Today our discussion is Poetics. Poetics is a theoretical work was written by ancient Greek writer Aristotle. Aristotle was a Greek philosopher, polymath and a student of Plato. Before going to the detailed discussion of Poetics, we should learn some basic information about Aristotle himself. Aristotle was a Greek philosopher born in Stagria. He got his education from Plato's academy. Plato was a student of Socrates. We can say he was the leader of Western philosophy. Alexander the Great, the famous king, was the student of Aristotle. It was believed that he inspired Alexander the Great to dominate the whole world, to spread Greek culture and view of life. As he was a polymath or a man of versatile genius, he had an interest on everything from biology to politics. He wrote many books on art and aesthetic, like poetics, rhetoric, music, etc. His notable ideas are Aristotelian logic and syllogism. Poetics, it means a theory on poetry. Aristotle informs us how to write dramatic poetry or poetic arts. Poetics is a good and refined analysis on the development of poetry. It mainly deals with tragedy and epic poetry. He considered tragedy a superior kind of art. He observed poetry as mimetic or imitative. It is mimetic in the sense because it represents the real in the work of art. He also rejected the opinion of Plato, his master, who thought poetry mother of lies and twice removed from reality. In Poetics, he defines seven characteristics of tragedy: mimetic, seriousness, full story of a powerful length, rhyme and harmony. Different parts of tragedy create harmony and rhythm, performative rather than narrative. And last one, pity and fear. These are the seven characteristics of a tragedy. Those make a good tragedy according to him. Beside these, he talked about six parts or components of tragedy: plot, character, thought, diction, melody, and spectacle. Many small concepts like kinds of unity, peripetia, anagrosis, and catharsis, etc. Here he talked about three kinds of unities: unity of time, action, and place. He suggested the tragedy writer to follow these unities. Catharsis means purgation or purification of emotion. Peripetia means reversal of fortune. And anagrosis means discovery. All these are important elements of poetics. Now we will see chapter-wise summary of the text Poetic. It is divided into 26 chapters in total. In the first chapter, he discussed imitation and the principle of art and its relation to imitation. In the second chapter, he talked about the difference between comedy and tragedy from the point of view of imitation. In the third chapter, he emphasized the process of imitation from the manner of imitation. He classified poetry into various groups like epic, narrative poetry, and dramatic poetry. In the fourth chapter, he discussed origin and development of poetry. He pointed out psychological causes for the origin of poetry. In the fifth chapter of the Poetic, he differentiates epic, tragedy, and comedy in details. He makes a ridiculous comment on comedy. He said comedy is an inferior kind of art. In this chapter, chapter number 6, Aristotle defined the tragedy and its formative elements. He suggested six elements of tragedy: plot, character, thought, diction, melody, and spectacle. From chapter number 7 to 12, he talked about plot, what is plot, how it is used in a work of art, unity of plot. In The chapter number 7 he said construction of plot. In chapter number 8 he addressed unity of plot. In 9 chapter he used poetic truth in relation to plot. Chapter number 10 he divided plot as complex and simple. In 11 and 12 he talked about parts of plot such as peripetia, anagrosis, etc. In chapter number 13, he informed us about tragic action and who is tragic hero. In chapter number 14, he deals with sources of tragic emotions, pity and fear. He said plot must be the creator of pity and fear, not spectacle in this chapter. Chapter 15 consists of characters and its limitation in tragedy. He suggested 4 essential features of a character: goodness, appropriateness, truth, and consistency. Chapter 16 deals with anagrosis and discovery and its kinds. He divided recognition into various parts in this chapter. Chapter number 17 is a practical suggestion to the tragedy writers to compose a good tragedy. In chapter number 18, he pointed out some extra rules for a tragic poet. In chapter number 19, he focused on thought and diction. These two are closely related. Character expresses thought through diction, he said in this chapter. Next chapter is chapter number 20, which deals with diction or language. Aristotle gave an analysis of it. He used various grammatical devices to express diction such as article, noun, verb, and other part of speech. Now come to the next chapter, chapter number 21 and 22. In chapter number 21, dictates, poetic, diction, and used of metaphor. And chapter number 22 was written on the basis of how diction should be written. Chapter 23 and 24 deals with epic poetry and its kinds. How epic poetry is similar as well as different from tragedy, he said in this chapter. Chapter number 25. Chapter 25 deals with critical objection on poetry and their tentative solution. The final chapter, chapter number 26, is a comparative value of epic and tragedy and its judgment from Aristotelian point of view. So this is the small lecture on poetics. I shall request you stay with us to get all the lectures from English Honors series.